Would you call yourself a math person? If you're like most people, you would say no. After all, it's pretty common knowledge that math just isn't something a lot of people are good at. Given that and the popular belief that math is inherently a tough subject, it seems that not many can even call themselves math people. Well, I'm here to tell you that the idea of the math person as you know it is simply not true. With the right work, anyone can succeed in math. But if that's the case, then why do so many people struggle in math?
To explain why, we need to understand the factors that go on throughout a student's school life, starting in early childhood. One factor is dyscalculia, which is a math learning disability that affects about 5 to 10% of people.
Some of the students that I've had in previous years that couldn't calculate. They couldn't multiply or divide in their head. They didn't know their times tables. And it wasn't necessarily an issue from their teacher. It's because they had a disability where they just couldn't get it. There's a disability called dyscalculia of students who don't calculate. They can't calculate in their head very quickly because the part of their brain just doesn't want to do it, or it needs strengthening.
People with dyscalculia have trouble understanding key concepts in math such as more and less, trouble connecting words for numbers with specific amounts, and trouble remembering rules in math. One cause of dyscalculia is genetics. There isn't a single gene behind dyscalculia, but there are many genes that play a small part. Those genes tend to impact reading skills as well, so it's common for someone to have both dyscalculia and dyslexia, which is a disability that makes reading and spelling more difficult. While dyscalculia is important to consider, it only affects about 5 to 10% of people, which means that for most of us, we can't exactly link our math skills with a condition like dyscalculia. An article by Big Think makes an interesting point on this. It quotes a book from developmental psychologist Steven Pinker in How the Mind Works, stating that, on evolutionary grounds, it would be surprising if children were mentally equipped for school mathematics. These tools were invented recently in history and only in a few cultures, too late and too local to stamp the human genome. He goes on to argue that although we have certain mathematical intuitions, such as how toddlers can compare the number of dots in pictures, these intuitions are not the same as the highly formal rule systems we start learning in elementary school. In other words, while there are some intuitions that are important in math, they're only part of the story here, because the actual formal rules in math are something that has to be taught, not something people are born good at. What's more relevant is the amount and quality of the practice students receive.
I do feel that some people's brains are wired in such a way that math may come easier to others, but I don't believe that there's such a thing as not a math person.
Math is a skill, and a skill is built. Like basketball is a skill, you don't get it by just sitting back in the background. You get it by actually practicing. That's why a lot of math worksheets have tons and tons of similar problems on them, because math is a skill that you build. It's not something you just know.
The article Adding It Up, Helping Children Learn Mathematics describes 5 branches of what makes someone good at math. The 2 we'll focus on here are procedural fluency and conceptual understanding. Procedural fluency is basically being able to solve problems efficiently and correctly. Students should be able to carry out methods to add, subtract, multiply, and divide whole numbers, for example. These skills need practice and drilling, which comes from worksheets and times tables. Conceptual understanding means being able to understand the reasoning behind the methods used, and being able to mentally connect ideas with each other. Conceptual understanding makes it easier to develop procedural fluency, but first you need procedural fluency in order to develop conceptual understanding. According to an article from Edutopia, pressured to cover every state standard with equal emphasis, teachers often can't spend extra time on fundamentals like memorizing multiplication tables, or even on the standards themselves. That means a lot of classes don't allocate enough time for students to practice what they learned, meaning students won't get that procedural fluency, meaning they won't be able to make the higher level connections for conceptual understanding. That's a problem because math is a subject that relies heavily on prior knowledge. If they haven't fully learned the basic concepts, they'll fall behind in more complex concepts.
I see some students, they don't know how to use the calculator, or they don't know some mental math, and that does affect them because they are a slower learner in that sense. But if you learn it, then, it will be okay, but you definitely need that prior knowledge.
I couldn't really remember things from the previous year because I just wasn't paying attention that much. Since it just sort of piled on, it just made it really hard for me.
So far, we've talked about the early factors of math skills, which include dyscalculia and the practice students receive. There are also later factors to math skills, which prevent students from fulfilling their potential in math later on. One of the biggest things that affects students over time is the myth of the math person, which is the belief that people are naturally born good or bad at math. An article from The Atlantic describes this scenario. When children first enter math class, they have different levels of preparation depending on how much math they were taught at home. The more prepared students often score better in tests and homework, while the unprepared students are more likely to be frustrated at the subject. The unprepared students, not realizing the prepared students had previous experience, assume they're just not math people and stop pushing themselves in the subject, believing that they'll never improve. I must emphasize that the math person myth is not true. As I've discussed, much of what makes students good or bad at math is from the practice they've had, rather than from something innate. Despite that, the myth that someone is or isn't a math person is still prevalent, and makes a lot of students adopt what's called the fixed mindset, which is a belief that your natural abilities are fixed and cannot be developed just by working hard or listening to advice from others.
I think people where math doesn't come naturally to them, I think that it starts out as not natural and then they just think, oh, I'm not good at math, I'm not going to try anymore, and then they just tend to give up on themselves, and so they don't keep pushing and they don't keep trying to learn a new way and a different way to correct themselves.
Many students expect math to be a hard subject due to what they hear from those around them, including family and friends.
I think a lot of times students hear from their parents that math is hard or math is not fun. So when they're little, when they hear that from their parents, they think that that's how math is.
I'm told that, wow, I must be so smart because I'm good at math. Well, why does being good at math make me any smarter than someone who's good at history or English? And I think it's because of this stigma, this idea that math is so much more difficult than everything else.
The fixed mindset can come from teachers as well.
The teachers that I've had in the past, they've always told me that I wasn't good at it, that I wouldn't go anywhere if I didn't learn how to do it, but they wouldn't put any effort to help me. They would always just doubt me. They'd be like, you're not good at this, I can't help you, I give up on helping you, you're hard to work with. Just basically disencouraging me to do what they're intended to do, which is teach me. So I kind of just lost motivation to work towards being better at math.
According to an article from KQED, teachers often believe their students can't achieve at the highest level, and in turn, students believe that about themselves. In other words, when teachers think their students can't do high-level math, the students internalize that and believe the same thing. Students also tend to feel that they have to be perfect in math class in order to be considered good at math. Thus, when a student gets a math problem wrong, they take it very personally.
Usually when I make a mistake, I kind of feel kind of disappointed in myself because, I don't really feel like I should be struggling so hard. It just feels like that because it's the only way that it'll feel right is if I just do it perfectly.
Personally, me, it's really hard to make mistakes in life in general, so especially in math, after being so good at it for a long period of time, when I make a mistake, it tends to make me really upset, and then I'll be really mad for maybe the rest of the day or something.
A possible side effect of the fixed mindset is math anxiety, which is when someone feels a sense of panic when doing something math-related.
Every time it comes down to a test, for math specifically, I get really nervous and I just forget everything that I just learned, or for allowed notes, the notes all of a sudden don't make sense even though they're my personal notes that I wrote.
Math anxiety manifests itself much like other forms of anxiety, with symptoms that include worry or panic, tense muscles, increased heart rate, sweaty palms, or lightheadedness. Math anxiety affects working memory, which is the type of memory needed to store important details in your brain, such as relevant numbers or the steps needed to solve an equation. And because math anxiety occupies that working memory, it's harder for students with anxiety to focus, making it harder to solve math problems.
I tend to have a lot of test anxiety. It really affects how well my tests come out. Because usually if I'm freaking out about it, I don't do as well because I'm just so busy freaking out about how bad I'm gonna do.
Now we have the early factors and the later factors. Let's summarize what we've covered so far. In early childhood, poor math skills can come from dyscalculia, a disability that inhibits the brain's ability to do math. But not everybody who's bad at math necessarily has a disability. For most people, math skill comes down to the amount and quality of practice they received. Procedural fluency and conceptual understanding are both important. But if classrooms don't have enough time to build procedural fluency, students won't be able to understand important concepts and develop conceptual understanding. And because math relies on prior knowledge, students who haven't learned basic concepts can't learn more complex concepts. Now, when a student realizes they're not so strong in math at first, they tend to fall into a fixed mindset by concluding that they're just not a math person. Under that false belief that they can't improve, they stop trying in their math classes, keeping them from reaching their full potential. This belief that there's a math person is very common, and it may come from teachers. Many students feel guilty when they get a problem wrong as well. Math anxiety is a product of the math person belief, and inhibits working memory, making it even harder to focus in math class.
As you can see, these concepts are all interconnected, which might leave you wondering, what can be done to untangle this mess?
There are a number of things teachers can do to help students who are struggling in math. While the fixed mindset is significant in preventing students from performing well in math, the growth mindset can help boost student performance in math. The growth mindset is the belief that you can develop your natural abilities by working hard or listening to advice from others. The first thing teachers can do is integrate the growth mindset in class.
I encourage a growth mindset right from day one in my classes. We spend some time discussing what it means to have a growth or a fixed mindset, and I have posters in my room that talk about what it means to have a growth mindset, and I do my best throughout the year to model having a growth mindset, and again, just encouraging and continuing to remind my students to have confidence in themselves and to keep trying.
When students feel confident, they don't give up. They want to keep doing more. And that's what I try to instill in them, try to do that positive feeling about math. The more you think that you're going to be better at it, you will be definitely better at it. We don't want to think about it as this is too challenging, I cannot do it. No, it could be challenging, but we are going to keep trying. We're never going to give up.
It's also beneficial for teachers to change their mindset about their own math skills. Professor Joe Bowler, co-author of a study at Stanford Graduate School of Education, explains that as teachers reevaluate their own potential as learners, they are more likely to embrace new forms of teaching. This helps their students build confidence, develop positive attitudes, and ultimately achieve better test scores. Teachers can also help students learn that mistakes are okay, and they can give feedback on the mistakes students make.
A couple of years ago, I tried to alleviate this getting it wrong, would you just get a big giant X on your paper? I implemented a system where instead of getting it wrong, we called it, you made a silly mistake. And a silly mistake would be the tiniest error maybe at the end of their calculations where they forgot the negative was there, or they forgot that negative divided by negative makes a positive. That's another common error that students encounter in math. And that did wonders for my students because they were like, oh, I didn't get it wrong. I just made a silly mistake.
Since math relies on prior knowledge, teachers should ensure that all students understand the more basic ideas before moving on to advanced ideas.
When I teach math, I go back to the very basics to catch and gather all the students who may have missed that. For example, if I have a student that doesn't know how to solve two-step equations, I will go back to negative numbers, and we're going to do -1 plus -1. Because a two-step equation requires the negative numbers, and that's where students make the most mistakes in math, honestly, is with negative numbers, because they didn't get a firm grasp when they first learned it in 6th grade.
Teachers should engage students by asking them questions throughout a problem to get them to think.
When I teach in the classroom, I try to ask more questions. The more questions I ask makes them think. And when a student is stuck with a problem, I don't give the answer right away to them. Again, I ask a question so that they can think of what do they do at that point. That way it helps them use that same process later on, because I don't believe in just giving away the answer to them, because that's not how they learn. To me, I think they have to think. The thinking comes by asking more questions.
To help students with dyscalculia, teachers can allow them to use calculators to focus on more important concepts.
When I encounter a student like that, typically in the high school, we don't calculate anymore. They actually get a calculator. And instead, they have to learn those higher order concepts that are in algebra or geometry. So in order to learn those concepts, they do need to learn the underlying concepts, which helps them immensely because they're no longer calculating and they're learning the beginnings or the basics of that fundamental math issue.
Teachers can also visualize ideas for students with dyscalculia through coins, blocks, and puzzles, give them a list of the math formulas used in class, use concrete examples to connect math to real life, and they can use graphic organizers to break down math problems into steps. Those are all possible ways teachers can help students improve their skills. There are also a number of things you can do if you're a student who's struggling in math. To start, you can work to adopt a growth mindset and persevere.
Yeah, I've had to work really hard in high school to get where I am, but it's all worth it in the end, and you'll feel very proud of yourself if you do work hard.
I've struggled with the growth and the fixed mindset a couple of times, actually myself. Sometimes it gets hard and I think that I'm not going to figure it out, but then I remember that you just have to keep trying, try to do things different ways and try to figure it out, and then you'll get it eventually.
When you adopt a growth mindset, you will learn to enjoy math.
I learned to like math by, first of all, learning it, because when you don't learn math, you don't understand it, you don't like it. But when you learn it, then that's when you learn to like it. So when you really take the time to understand it, you will learn to like it like how I did.
Along with that, it's important to remember that mistakes are part of the learning process.
I'm mostly just oh, it's a mistake and move on, because during math, you're gonna make a mistake, so you might as well just get over it. When I was younger, I'd always be hard on myself if I forgot something, but then as you grow older, you're just oh, it's gonna be a mistake. It's life, you're gonna mess up.
As a memory strategy, you can teach others the concepts you're learning in class.
Definitely, I think that teaching others as I was learning definitely helped me, because a lot of the times, if I didn't understand something, I would have to re-explain it, and then it made more sense in my head. So while I was teaching others, it would make more sense in my head as we moved along.
If you have math anxiety, you can find ways to cope in order to help you focus more.
For my IEP, I mostly get pulled into another room so a teacher can sit there and help me. Being able to listen to music during the test would also help me concentrate more, because I wasn't worried about what was going on around me.
It's more just however you need to, because for me personally, I just need to stop doing what I'm doing and go do something else to take my mind off of it, and then come back when I'm calm and when I'm collected, so that I can re-look at the problem with a fresh mind and be okay, I know what I'm doing, just do it again, and then do the problem fresh on a fresh piece of paper with nothing around you, and just figure it out over again.
Finally, if you're stuck on a problem, attending one-on-one tutoring is beneficial.
I think tutoring is pretty helpful. It's just extra time for me to figure out certain concepts and really get it down.
Tutoring does help you, especially in class. The teacher can't always just be at your desk, they have to help others. So that's why tutoring is good if you take the responsibility out of your time to learn, so it just all helps you at the end, so yeah.
Overall, if you're struggling with math, you should remember the growth mindset and persevere. Remember that it's okay to make mistakes, teach others in order to reinforce what you're learning, find ways to cope with math anxiety, and attend one-on-one tutoring.
While teachers are there to help you learn, it is ultimately up to you to put in the effort. Remember that no one is born a math person, everyone can improve their math skills if they work at it, and when you've improved, you will enjoy math. You can do this. I trust you.
So, what is this talent you're auditioning for? I am hereby presenting myself as the fastest calculus problem solver on the entire planet Earth. I managed to solve 100 calculus problems within 2 seconds.
Yeah, go on.
It's my turn.
So, how'd you solve that? Yeah, it was so fast. You just didn't see it coming.
So on one of the problems involving logarithms and improper integration, care to explain how you identified U and dv? And did you use the tabular method or what? Did you use limits or toe the improper integrity?
What do you mean? Explain it. I don't understand.
Think of improper integrals as abandoned vehicles and limit notations as tow trucks. How do you drive an abandoned vehicle out the road? You use a tow truck to tow it off the road.
He claims he trained for it. So why are you teaching him an analogy?
You know what? You should understand it since you proclaim to be very fast at doing calculus problems.
So, yeah. Keep explaining it to us.
All this crap was just so fast. Man, you just didn't see them coming.
Prove your answer, you dimwit. Yeah, you idiot.
See what? That was the method I used!
You say what? I'm not seeing your way of solving all this math. What does mean? I'm not getting it.
Never mind, it's
Cheater, pumpkin eater!
The whole stadium, including the talent show, is nothing short of a joke. Including all of you here, including the audience, and including you judges.
Do you hear him?
Judges, what I did was just
You
a
hear
weird
him
sport,
right now.
and man, you just had to invalidate all I did.
What kind of talent is this?
What is this weird sport you're talking about? Anyone can do what you just did.
That includes the kindergartner in the cafeteria.
I could come up there and do exactly what you just did.
Judge yourself.
Hey.
What is the point you are trying to prove?
What are you trying to prove or make out of yourself?
I just saw somebody do it on the internet, and I thought I was gonna be the next Albert Einstein. What are you doing? Why are you being rude? No!
I'm looking at your work over here, and all I'm seeing is nonsense, all right? I am a winner of the academic decathlon. I was a gold medal finalist, and I can prove to you right here, as I solve it, how difficult this is, all right? This is not a joke. This is something to take serious.
Come on, show them what real math skills are. Yeah.
All right, let me show you how difficult this is.
Bro,
It's out of here. All right.
All right, I want you to pay close attention, all right? Because f of x equals 0, this cancels out, so now we have 10 plus x, and then that is equal to 9, so you subtract the 10 from both sides, and then x equals -1. There's your answer.
Yo, what is this? All this scary stuff that one of you wrote? Is this even real math?
Oi, stop your antics.
I'm sorry. I won't do this ever again. Also, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and click the notification bell so you don't miss another talent of mine.
Go.
Hey, shut up! Your work over here, and I'm not half impressed, man. I mean, look at all this. As a winner of the academic decathlon, all right, the year they had gold. Are you doubting my credentials?
Have you ever wanted dreadlocks? Well, today I'm going to teach you how to get and maintain them. So these are what my dreadlocks look like. I have what's known as a high top, which is where you only have dreadlocks on the top of your head. If you want dreadlocks like Bob Marley, you'll have to get a full set where you'll have dreadlocks on the sides and the back of your head. Let me tell you real quick why I got my dreadlocks.
I got my dreadlocks because of the personal bond it signifies between me and my hair. When my hair was super short and when I first started, I was a completely different person than I am today. And as my hair grows longer, I also grow with my hair.
For this method, you will need a standard locking gel, a comb, and some clips.
So something to note here, this method I'm about to show you won't like work the best for all types of hair. I'd suggest doing your own research and like learning what works for your hair. I picked this method because it's the fastest and it's how I got my dreadlocks. So I'm not gonna hold you guys any longer. Let's get to my bathroom.
Start off by getting your hair wet. Now that you've wet your hair, we're going to take our comb and push away all of our hair to make that section for one of our dreadlocks. Follow what I do here. Now that we've made our section, we're going to take some locking gel and apply it to our root, twisting in one direction only. Make sure to twist it tightly and then clip it down. And you're done. Rinse and repeat with your whole head and don't take the clips out until you're finished.
So for maintenance, really all you have to do is just continually do that what I just showed you. That's called a retwist. You'll have to do it like once every month or so. You'll also need this is called a do-rag. You're gonna want to wear these every night so that that way your hair doesn't get caught in, like, let's say you have like a pillow like mine, right? It doesn't have like a covering over it, so what'll happen is that your hair will actually get caught in your pillow and then your hair will start falling out. So that's why I recommend you guys sleep with this or a bonnet. Enjoy your locks, embrace every stage, and yeah.
Rainbow Six Siege, a tactical shooter where 5 attackers infiltrate a building, attempting to defuse a bomb, and 5 defenders attempt to stop them. It has many maps, some resembling real-life places, such as Oregon, Presidential Plane, Consulate, Bank, Yacht, Clubhouse, Border, and Hereford Base. But today, we're talking about Cafe Dostoevsky, a map I found back during the 3rd year on Operation Grim Sky. Now, I won't go into the operation itself, but I was able to get a copy of the old season and go back in time. This place, where I first heard of Mr. Dostoevsky, but I had yet to learn who he was and of the actual real-life counterpart to the map. Comparing photos of the actual building and what was shown in-game, we can see some similarities, especially at the front entrance, though I can't confirm the kitchen and back parts of the map. I can say for certain that the front end parts of the building, going from the 1st floor to the 3rd floor, did have resemblances to the actual real-life place.
One thing I would like to mention is that recording inside of Cafe Pushkin itself in real life was not really allowed, though they did allow taking photos of the first and third floor. They generally didn't want you to video record, so the footage that I got was rather crude, to say the least.
Fyodor Dostoevsky authored some of the most influential and psychologically probing novels in history. His works delve deep into the human psyche, exploring themes of morality, guilt, and existentialism. Mr. Dostoevsky had gotten the inspiration for writing in general back when he was a child, having read works from many novelists and playwrights. Still, the most notable were Alexander Pushkin and Nikolai Vasilievich Gogol. Now, before we discuss what happened to him in the Siberian prison that further pushed him into writing and religion, we have to discuss the Petrushevsky Circle, which Dostoevsky had been a part of. And though he didn't really believe in the more radical parts, he has certainly been against the serfdom which had plagued the Russian citizens at the time. There was a letter by Vissarion Belinsky to Nikolai Gogol which denounced Gogol's views. The letter, which had been banned for its socially, politically committed art, landed Dostoevsky in prison due to him having a copy of the letter. Now, in the prison, he was sent to be executed, and for us to discuss the execution, we have to take a look at one of his books, The Idiot, where he discusses many topics, but one that stands out is the one where he talks about mock execution. He makes a character who is facing a similar situation, and in the book, the character says that if he was given one more chance, he would turn every single minute into an age and there would be no time unaccounted for. Absolutely nothing wasted. Now, Dostoevsky's novels weren't just stories, they were mirrors reflecting the complex life in 19th century Russia. His characters grappled with moral dilemmas of their time, resonating with readers who had yearned for meaning and purpose. Now, during my time in Russia, we went across many cities and visited many relatives, and as I spoke to them and asked around, it seemed as though they all knew who Dostoevsky and Pushkin were, often talking about books written by the authors, though I don't recall which books specifically they mentioned as it was in Russian. They did show, at the very least, that they were well known. Before I even went to Russia, I had already pre-planned some locations that I would have liked to see. A sanatorium and some historical places in St. Petersburg, an arcade and theater back in my hometown, and lastly, the mega mall in Moscow and Cafe Pushkin itself. Now, though I may not have been able to go to every single place that I had on my list, I did see some things that further expanded my knowledge and viewpoints, specifically music. I noticed that there were a lot of people there that were more interested in older artists, those from the past that weren't talked about or as well known anymore, artists that had been passed down from their parents to the younger generations. Now, how does that pertain to our current topic? It just showed that music and arts in general had a really big impact on people from then to now. In 1965, a French singer by the name of Gilbert Bécaud gave a series of concerts in Moscow, and during the time there, he had a guide which served as his translator as he didn't know the local language. Once he got back to France, though, he wrote a song dedicated to his guide. He sang about his tour around Moscow and the Red Square, though during the song, he also mentions that he'd rather be at a so-called Cafe Pushkin, which didn't exist at the time, looking out the window at the snow, drinking hot chocolate, and talking about something different, which is a song you're listening to as we speak. Today, Cafe Pushkin and Cafe Dostoevsky keep the legacy of Pushkin and Dostoevsky, and the French songwriter who inspired the Russians, Gilbert Bécaud, alive. It's a place where readers and enthusiasts can savor the flavors of his literature and ambience of his time. Though, if it hadn't been for me playing Rainbow Six way back in 2018, who knows if I would have ever even known about the three, let alone the cafe.
I'm Porter, and today we're going to be learning about how to change a tire. You may be asking yourself, why would you need to know this when we have AAA and other things to help us with that? But what if you're stranded, like we are out here in the middle of nowhere? You have very little reception and tow trucks 3 hours away. What are you going to do? So without further ado, let's get to how to change a tire in 9 easy steps. Step 1. Make sure you put your car in park and pull the e-brake. Step 2. Then you are going to locate where the tools are for the vehicle. Mine are located in the side compartment in my trunk. Step 3. After you grab them, find where your spare tire is. Mine is under the car, and you have to pop this cap off to lower the tire. Step 4. You then grab the tire iron from the toolkit and start to lower the tire. Once it is off, you can set it off to the side until we need it. Step 5. You will then remove the wheel cover or hubcap and then slightly loosen the lug nuts. Step 6. Now it's time to jack up the car. Make sure that it is on the frame of the car so that you do not risk damaging your vehicle. Step 7. After you have jacked up your car, you take off the lug nuts of your tire and set it off to the side. Step 8. You will now put on the spare tire. Put on all the lug nuts. Make sure you put them on tight so that your wheel doesn't fall off when you're driving later. Step 9. Finally, lower your car and put the tools away, and then you can drive off to your nearest tire shop to get it fixed right away. Thanks for watching, and everyone stay safe out there while changing your tire.
Hello everyone, my name is Ella, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make authentic sushi from the comfort of your own home. Today we are going to be making a shrimp tempura roll. Today I'm making sushi because sushi is my favorite food and I'm also part Japanese, so I wanted to connect more with my Japanese heritage. So let's get started. Some ingredients you'll need are 2 cups of water, 3 tablespoons of sugar, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, and 1/3 cup of rice vinegar. 2 cups of Japanese short grain rice, pre-cooked tempura shrimp. You are also going to need an avocado, a cucumber, and sushi nori sheets. You can find these at the grocery store. Something I learned from my mom is that you should always wash your rice before you cook it because there are a bunch of starches in here and we don't want that in our roll. To wash your rice, all you're going to need to do is get a strainer and put your rice in it and run it under the faucet and kind of just sift through the rice with your fingers to make sure all of the grains of rice are washed. I also forgot to say that you need to get out your handy dandy rice cooker. This is pretty old. You don't need anything new. Just something to cook your rice with. And you're gonna pour it in. And you're also going to pour in your 2 cups of water. And now you're just going to close the lid and turn the switch on to cook. There's no specific time it'll take. You just have to watch it and then it'll click and then you'll open it and it'll be done. We're gonna let that cook for a little bit and then we're going to cut up our veggies. This roll that I'm making is a roll I would have all the time as a child because I was not a raw fish lover and I was kind of picky. So we would do tempura shrimp instead. You're gonna slice it all the way around and it should look like this. Now we're just going to make slices like so into the avocado so that later when we make the roll you can lay them down and it'll look nice. We only have to do 1/2 because we're not making that much. So next is the cucumber. You're going to want to cut off the edges because we don't want that in our roll. And it just gives it a cleaner look in the end. I'm going to cut it in half one time. And then cut this in half. Again, we're not making that much. So we can put this to the side. And we're going to cut it again. Halves on both.
One of the most important pieces of boxing gear are your hand wraps, as they not only offer that knuckle protection, but the wrist support. So when you go to throw that punch, not only do you protect your knuckles and your hand, but at the same time it prevents this injury where your hand caves in on itself and you end up punching with your wrist. Alright, I've been there, done that. I would not recommend it. I would recommend it a 0 out of 5 stars on Yelp, especially when you go full power. But like most things in life, it is not a one-size-fits-all scenario, meaning that there are 2 common types of hand wraps, 180s, 120s. Number itself refers to the number of inches it gives, so 180s give 180 inches, 120s give 120 inches, and side by side you can see how one is noticeably larger than the other, that being the 180s. Because they offer 60 inches more, they offer more protection, and they're also meant for people with bigger hands. If you have smaller hands or you find that the 180s are a bit too much, then 120s would be more suited for you. But no matter the case, if you only have one or the other, I'll be covering how to do both. To start wrapping 120s, you're going to want to first figure out which side is meant to be face down.
You can do this with either a tag, or certain brands choose to put this side face down in writing. In my case, since I don't have a tag or writing, you can locate the finger loop, and then whichever side it is sewn on in this case it would be this side, that would indicate this side is meant to be face down. Once you've figured out which side is face down, you're going to want to put your thumb in the finger loop, then carry it across your wrist, underneath your wrist, down towards your thumb, and then up towards your knuckles and wrap around 3 times, so 1, 2, 3, and make sure to keep your hand open so after you're done boxing, your hand doesn't have start to have pain because of incorrect circulation and improper punches. Once you've wrapped around 3 times, you're going to want to head down beneath your thumb, then up towards between your first finger, cross your knuckles, back down beneath your thumb, and then you're going to want to repeat this step between every single finger until you've reached the last one. So again, cross the finger, and this time, since we've reached the last one, you're going to want to head up and go around actually a second time, and then go between your pointer and your thumb down towards your wrist, and then use your Velcro or tape, whichever one you have, to finish off the hand wrap. And there you go, that's how you wrap 120s for boxing. Next will be the 180s, and now you're ready to go hit the bag or spar. To start wrapping 180s, you're going to want to first figure out which side is face down. You can do this by either locating a tag, like in my case, or you can find writing that says this side face down. If neither of those indicators are available, then you can do trial and error, or find the finger loop and whichever side it is sewn on in, that side will be face down. Once you've figured out which side is which, you're going to want to put your thumb in the finger loop, bring it down to your wrist, and wrap around 3 times. So 1, 2, 3. Now that you've done this, you want to head up towards your knuckles and wrap around 4 times. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Once you've done that, you're going to want to head down beneath your thumb and wrap around, and then go across the back of your hand, and then back down beneath your thumb. Then head up between the first finger and create this X pattern by going down across towards your wrist, beneath your thumb, and repeat this step between every finger until you reach the last finger. Once you reach the last finger, you want to head back down beneath your thumb and actually head over towards the side of your knuckles over here and wrap around 2 times. So 1 and 2. Now that you've done that, you want to head between your pointer and thumb down towards your wrist and finish it off there by using either Velcro or tape, depending on which kind of wrap you have. And there you go, that's how you wrap with both 180s and 120s. Now you can put on your gloves and go train.
How to do your laundry. Equipment needed: a washer, a dryer, fabric softener, laundry detergent, and clothes. Step 1. Put clothes into dryer. Step 2. Pour fabric softener in desired location. Step 3. Pour detergent in desired location. When done, put desired settings on washer. Step 5. When finished washing, take clothes out of the washer and into the dryer. Now, put your desired settings into the dryer. Now you're done. Enjoy.
School's over. You can go home now. Hey TJ, how was school?
It was good. Nothing really happened.
That's good.
Yeah, I'm gonna go do my homework.
Okay.
Hello?
TJ, I haven't seen you in forever. You're always busy at school. We should hang out sometime.
You know I can't be doing that. Literally, I've procrastinated on everything for the whole school year.
Whatever. You didn't used to be like this. See you later.
This should only take a few hours.
What are you gonna do today?
I don't know. I'll probably do my homework and go to sleep.
Nah, that's boring. Tell you what, I forgot some stuff at the storage today. Why don't you go pick it up for me?
Can't you do it? Yourself?
Because you never get out of the house. It'll be good for you.
Okay, fine. But don't expect me to be in a great mood when I come back.
Thank you. I'll send you some money. Wait! You need to start watching where you're going. Not many people notice me. I'm lucky I've made it this long without dying.
Look, little guy. I really don't have time for this. I'm sorry I almost killed you. Bye.
Now wait just a minute. That's it? You're not even going to question how you just talked to a flower?
Why should I? I have so many other things to do. Why would I spend all my time talking to some dumb flower?
Look, I know you're a really busy guy, but maybe if you slowed down and talked to someone for a little bit, maybe you wouldn't be so uptight all the time.
Whatever, man.
Hey, how was everything?
It was fine.
See anything interesting?
Not really. I'm gonna go to bed.
Okay, suit yourself. Hey, where are you going?
Oh, I just thought I would take a walk.
Oh, okay, have fun.
Thank you. Hey, I thought about what you said. Hey, it's TJ.
Oh, hey, I thought you were too busy to talk.
I know. It's just, I don't think I've been prioritizing all the right things.
Okay, so what's different?
I don't know, just a change of heart, I guess.
So, when are we hanging out?
Life is just coming up daisies. Daisies coming up for me. Everything is looking mighty crazy. Daisy is the gal for me. You can keep your posies and your dahlias, your lily and your violet and your jasmine tree. My gal, she is no ordinary flora. They call her
My name is Liz Sansone. I'm the yearbook advisor. So I train students on all the aspects that they need to know to create a yearbook. So everything from page design to vocabulary needed to be able to communicate about pages. So we have a few different roles. We have 10 returning students this year. We have one editor-in-chief and one design editor. They work together to develop the theme and decide how the theme is carried out.
Basically, I edit the pages, I make sure the classes run properly, make all decisions for the yearbook, whether it's the cover, the font, all aspects of it.
I manage the pages themselves, so from design elements to photos, placements, stuff like that.
They develop cover design, they develop the opening pages, the title page, the ACD, the index spreads, the athletics reference spreads, the table of contents.
For the main part, I do the design, obviously. James does typography, and after everything is submitted by us, there are some things our eye couldn't really point out unless someone else proofreads or proof checks it, and that's where our teacher comes in.
The other roles are my design editors. Those are my experienced designers who were on staff last year or the year before. They are my kind of go-to people in terms of helping the new students learn their role and answer any questions, and they do help thoroughly in the training process. We also have our new designers that are students that are brand new and they're learning everything. They will get a full page spread as long as they demonstrate that they can do everything. We don't want to put any student in a position where they feel like they don't know what to do. So we make sure that they're well trained before they are given a page. And these design editors help them get to that point.
You can be multiple design editors, either it's for sports or the people section of the book. You can just be interviewing people. You can assist in taking photos. There's a lot of different things you can do.
We have a profile creator, or like someone who writes our profiles. We have photographers. We have the ACD team. Basically, if you have a skill that you're really good at, very good at, you stand out at, you would be given a position for that.
We try to include a variety of different activities. So we're telling diverse stories and are inclusive to our whole student body, so we can include as many students as possible.
It's a long process. We've been working on this yearbook since last year. So creating a theme would be the first step, as in coming up with a title, looking at other books, getting inspiration, trying to come up with design elements and whatnot that you carry out through the book and make sure they are being carried out.
And then we decide what else we want in the book, like a ACD, or what interviews we want to have, or what pages we want to include. That will be decided early in the year.
We have to decide, based on how we want our cover, we have this much in our budget for this many pages. So we have to decide how we're going to use that. I always tell students that pages are like real estate, that every page is worth a certain amount of money. That ACD that we put on there is worth a certain amount of money. Everything's worth a certain amount of money, so we have to be really careful about how we divide up and what we include. Themes guide our reader through the year and allow them to feel what the year felt like. The hope of a theme is that it captures what people are feeling and experiencing. In its vibe, in the way it makes you feel looking at the colors, the images that we choose, and the verbal language. We're hoping that our theme captures the feeling of the year at El Camino as Eagles in that particular year.
It's a long process. You technically develop the theme before anything else.
Right before school ends, we start thinking of what we want the next book to look like. And it's a big brainstorming session that happens over a couple weeks. And we really pick out our favorite ones and what we think our school means to us.
Are we feeling like major issues in the world are coming down on us? For example, COVID. Our COVID book was completely about that experience. Our particular theme that year was moving forward, because we had to. We just had to move forward in whatever way we could. And so we carried that out visually and verbally to explain that there really wasn't an option. Masks and all, this is what drama looked like this year. And then the year after COVID, our theme was Look at Us Now, because a lot of the students felt like, oh my gosh, we got through this, and there was such a feeling of gratitude for being on campus, being with each other, being together. We felt so positive. The year after that was last year's yearbook, and it was the power of us. Because we were like, look at us now, we had revealed the mask, and then it was the power of us. It was like that next year after, like, we fully felt the power of being together. Just how alive we felt, like the depression was coming off, the apathy was coming off, the engagement was coming in, and we felt so powerful. So once that theme is established, we work on making that pretty, okay? And so how do we carry out that verbal theme visually? And that's a long process. What we end up having as our visual theme ends up being completely different than any of our preliminary ideas, because we go through so many different drafts and we say, what about this? What about that? We try different fonts. We think about things that go together.
The cover is something that we choose and something that fits the theme as well. So it comes in after the title and the theme. It's kind of the third type of step you would go to in the process.
So we have senior photos that are taken through Bill Smith Photography, and seniors go out to their Roseville location, or they also have a pop-up location during the fall months in Sacramento for our students to go take their senior portraits there. As a school site, we have always worn the tuxedo and the drape, and our administration wants to carry on that look for our yearbook because it's such a tradition that we've had here. And then we also have photos of our freshmen through juniors. Those are taken at scheduled pickup day. And they're also taken by Bill Smith Photography. So we have athletic photos that we put in our athletic reference section. Those are taken by Bill Smith Photography as well. We also have club photos that are taken by Bill Smith Photography on campus. Herf Jones, I guess, is a yearbook company. We call them our yearbook vendor. Essentially, it's who we buy our yearbook from, and their product includes a software system and a printing facility. Also a representative who can help us through building our budget and making sure we get the materials that we want for the cover. They actually print these pages early. They print them, they get them ready. It's hard to explain. I don't know fully what they do, but they do print them early, and then they put the book all together at the end.
We usually print about 600 books with a couple extras, and depending on how much people buy, how many books people buy. And yeah, they send them to us towards the end of the year. We get them around May, late May, and then we hand them out to everybody.
Yearbooks are a historical document that I feel like are made to document the changes throughout the years in high school. So looking back now at a 50-year-old book, they didn't have the same hairstyles, didn't have the same styles or anything like that. And you'd see how different it was and what the different sports we had and how they changed and the names changed. And it's really to look back on your memories and to share the way you lived your high school life and how you remember it.
Yearbooks are made to show memories. They're a way to be a mini time capsule of our year we had in our school.
I have yearbooks in here from our very first year here at El Camino when we opened. And because of that, we can easily define a yearbook as a historical document. And I think that's one of its most important roles. There is nothing like seeing what the culture was at the time a yearbook was made. And it really captures history for students. So it becomes a historical document. We're capturing what people are wearing, what people are saying, what people are thinking about. So it's a historical document, also a memory book for students to remember their year and their friends and their experiences. Students sign the book, it becomes a memory book.
So a reason to join Yearbook would be that it's a great place to grow. If you want to do journalism in college or later in life, it's a great place to interview people, how to learn how to send emails. A lot of life skills you thought you wouldn't learn here that you actually do learn. And it's just a great place to meet friends. And it's a great way to get involved without having to be that stressed. There's always a place for you here, and there's always a time and place.